Hello and welcome to my preview for the Accursed race. Now, the Accursed race is a race starting and finishing in Skoder, Albania. It's run by Lost Dot, who are the people behind the Transcontinental race. And it's a fixed route race, off-road. And yeah, this is going to be the first race I do daily coverage for this year. So let's have a little look at the map. Give you a rough outline of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through some of the start list, some of the favourites, and then I'll dig into a little bit more detail about the route itself. So I raced this race last year, and yeah, I've got a bit of a fond spot for it, if I'm honest. I really love Albania and the Balkans. Just a pretty wild place and really, really great for like a bikepacking race or adventure. So yeah, hopefully I can give some good insight into the event. So as you can see, it's a bit of a circular route, starting and finishing in Skoder, heading north through Montenegro, a little bit in Bosnia, back through Montenegro, dipped into Kosovo for a few miles, and then this final loop round Albania. So yeah, that is a brief outline of the route. Before I go any further, I just want to say a big thank you to Enduro Bearings. If you've been watching my channel, you'll be no stranger to the fact that I run Enduro Bearings and have done for a good couple of years now. So they're sponsoring my coverage of the Accursed race. I've been running the XD15 and the Maxit bearings in various bikes over the last few years. So yeah, really good quality bearings. XD15 ceramic hybrid, Maxit a stainless steel. I'll go into more details further on in the coverage. But yeah, big shout out to those guys. Really good quality products. And basically, I've not had to replace anything that I fitted on my bikes. So yeah, that's a good sign given the amount of riding I do. So let's head over to the start list just to start with. So it's going to be tracked on Follow My Challenge. It's not the biggest race and start list. There's only 35 riders in total. One reason it's a particularly busy time in the calendar. So we've got the Accursed race. Then next weekend, or about 10 days time from now, there's the Hellenic race and the Highland Trail 550, both beginning on the same day. I'll be going to the Hellenic race in Greece. And then straight after those two races, there's Trans-Balkan. So with Hellenic, Trans-Balkan and Accursed, there's 3 races back to back basically in the Balkans. So I think it spreads the riders out between the races. And also Lost Dot, there's a no-fly policy. So to get there, you have to travel overland. So for last year for me, I obviously live in the UK, took the ferry across to France, drove to Zurich where I've got a friend I could park my van at. A few of us shared a lift. And then we took the train to Milan and then got a train to Bari in Italy. And then the ferry across to Durrës and then rode to the start. So it's a bit of a convoluted way, and it means basically a 1 week race takes 2 weeks. So I think that's another reason. Very good intentions behind it, but I think it does mean that the start list is slightly smaller. Having said that, it's still quite a strong start list. There's not many women, unfortunately, racing. There's one pair, so Hannah Vett and Annie Dunlap. They're riding together as a pair, and solo, there was only one woman, Jackie Prosser, cap number 21. So yeah, unfortunately, it's not going to be that strong a women's field, but nonetheless, we'll keep track of everyone doing that. But the big kind of standout 3 names for me in the sort of the men's field. So first up, we've got Marin de Saint-Exupéry. So Marin is no stranger to these races. So last year he raced the Atlas Mountain Race, the Hellenic Mountain Race and the Silk Road Mountain Race over in Kyrgyzstan. However, the catch is he rode between every single race and then back home to Switzerland after. He's very much an advocate for not flying. So very admirable from Marin. But last year he didn't really get many results, but that's unsurprising given the amount of riding he did. But this year, hopefully he can build on that massive base. And get some form together for the Accursed race. I raced with him at the tracker last week. He was looking strong, but I think he just rode a little bit stupid, if I'm honest. Sorry, Marin. Just went out too hard and then sort of cracked in the heat. But I think this will be a different game. It's right up Marin's street, so he will definitely be one to watch. My second favourite, Chris Dijkmans. Again, super strong rider. Normally goes a bit under the radar, but he won the Hellenic Mountain Race last year, which is an absolute climb fest. Very similar at times in terms of terrain to the ACCURSED race. So yeah, I'm sure Chris will be right up there, and I look forward to seeing how he gets on. And then for me, I mean, the number one favourite, it has to be Justinas Levejka. And, well, I think this photo here says it all. He won the Triple Crown in the US last year. So Tour Divide, as well as setting the fastest known time on the Tour Divide, Colorado Trail and Arizona Trail Race. A hell of a year. So he's not really got started this year. He's had a bit of a low-key start to the year, so ACCURSED will be his first race, but he's also backing up with the Trans-Balkans about 10 days later as well. So yeah, you can never rule Justinas out. I've done a bit of riding with him over the past weeks. He's super strong as always. Maybe not in top form yet, but I'm pretty sure that he'll be one to watch, and you can never rule out Justinas in a race such as this. So that's my favourites. As I said, Follow My Challenge is the kind of the tracking host. So we'll be keeping tabs on this as the race goes on. So it starts on Tuesday, I think it's the 14th of May. So yeah, I'll be doing daily updates just to sort of keep up to date with everyone. Hopefully have some voice notes from people. I'll keep an eye on the race social media, and hopefully try and bring this story to life as well as bringing some of my own video from last year's event. So yeah, that's the riders. Let's get on to the race route, which is really fantastic. It's if I'm honest, it's one of the best race routes I've ever done. It's why I'm very keen to do some race coverage for it this year. And incidentally, this is the last year that the ACCURSED race is going to run in this format. I don't know what's going to happen next year, whether it will be a different race in a different country, or a change route, or they're just going to take a break and then come back to it. Like I said, there's a lot going on in this area at this time of year in terms of the bikepacking calendar. So it probably would make sense to change either the date or maybe the location. But either way, it's a really, really fantastic route. And even if you don't want to race it, I would definitely recommend using this as a base for a tour around the Balkans. The Balkans are fantastic. I just can't say enough good things about them. So yeah, the race route is up on Rival GPS. They're the official partner of all the Lost Dot races now. So the ACCURSED race, the Transcontinental race, and the Trans-Pyrenees at the end of the year. So yeah, this is the route. Now this is the 2024 route. I didn't get my hands on the 2025 route, but it's basically the same. There's a few little tweaks here and there, but as much as makes no difference. All the big sections are pretty much the same. It's basically the kind of crappy sections where the route was maybe a bit overgrown, or going on a slow track when there's a really fast or a nice pleasant road next to it. Those are the things that have been tweaked. So it will just make the rider experience a little bit better. But in terms of dot watching, it won't make a difference. So as you can see, the race starts in Skoder, which is a really cool city. I've ridden through probably 4 or 5 times now. A couple of times on the Transcontinental race, and a couple of times touring, and then obviously was based there for the duration of the race last year. Really cool. I love Albania. I love the culture. Really welcoming. You don't feel like a stranger when you're in Albania and the wider Balkans. So yeah, the race starts normally, I think it was 9 a.m. Last year. And basically, if you look at the profile on Rival GPS here, as always, the kind of checkered sections of the profile on the track. These are off-road sections, and then the solid red, that is tarmac. It's not always necessarily accurate in the Balkans. Some bits have been sort of tarmacked over fairly recently, but it gives you a fair idea. And you can see there's some pretty chunky sections of off-road, a lot more near the end, and some road sections sort of in the middle. And you can see the first day, essentially the first 100 miles, 3 big climbs. So you know what you're getting into as soon as you start the ACCURSED race. If you're feeling unsure about it after the first few hours, then it's not going to get any easier. So the first climb, it's all drivable, but it's pretty rough. This is kind of the terrain you see. I mean, you could do it on a gravel bike if you wanted. You could do it on a rigid bike, and people did do it last year. However, a mountain bike with a suspension fork is probably the minimum you really want for a comfortable ride. You could put something on like a suspension seat post, or even a full suspension bike would be beneficial. But you can see you've climbed up this massive mountain. Pretty cool views, a bit wet and rainy. Generally it was quite quite warm last year, but obviously there was quite a lot of storms, some rain showers, but yeah, it was kind of mixed weather. You got to be prepared for everything, either hot or stormy, I'd say. So yeah, that was the first climb. Second climb, again, another monster. You're sort of probably climbing for the best part of an hour. This is on tarmac at the top. You can see sort of in the cloud cover. But yeah, this was a really good climb, beautiful, in a bit of a touristy area. And it just gets you in the rhythm. 3 big climbs. It's easy to tick them off one after the other. Not an awful lot in terms of resupply in this section. So basically you want to take enough food for the first day. If you look at the map, let's go back to the map. You can see the first sort of big town or big city. You cross the border, Podgorica in Montenegro. That's going to be the target for most people. Last year, 3 of us, myself, Alex Kopp and Adrian Lechty, we basically sort of pulled away from the field. And most people then stopped in Podgorica. It was kind of a stormy night, so a lot of people sort of took the hotel option. I got some food and stuff and carried on. So a lot of people will be aiming for that. So you've got these 3 big climbs. The third climb gets a bit more rugged and off-road. Starts getting a little bit more wild up the top, and a bit more kind of mountain bikey. I mean, it's not proper mountain biking, but it's enough just to weigh you down. And when you're doing this day after day, having kind of bigger tires and suspension just helps you save energy. But as you can see, it's wild, it's beautiful. You feel really out there. I felt like I was, at times on the Tour Divide, a mix of the Tour Divide and the Silk Road Mountain Race. So yeah, brilliant route. So yeah, that's pretty much the first day for most riders. We'll be getting to Podgorica. I expect the leaders to be pushing past and doing this first kind of crossing of Montenegro. You can see from the map, cross Montenegro, then there's a big loop in Bosnia, and then back across Montenegro further north. Well, not really north, is it? It's more kind of northeast. So yeah, cross Montenegro, and then you've got a kind of quite a long flat section. If you look here on the profile, it looks pretty flat. And now essentially this is an old railway through Bosnia. So it's kind of like a chance just to catch your breath, just adapt. There's pretty good resupply on this section, and you're basically riding up this massive long valley. You can see it's tarmac for most of it. There are a few off-road sections, but generally speaking, it's pretty straightforward and simple. Nothing really to worry about, just keeping on the pedals and, ticking over into day 2 of the race. So you just want to be getting kind of into your rhythm. And it's kind of nice that it stops you going too hard too early, because after that, there's not really any flat. You can see as you get to sort of the most northern point of the race, you're getting into this big off-road section, and this is the first sort of big remote climb. It's not too remote. I mean, it's kind of Jeep track. You could drive it if you wanted to, but it just feels wild. So you can see the kind of terrain. This is just over the summit. The climb the other side is very similar. You start in the woods and then basically you climb up and get more alpine the higher you get, and then you've got this beautiful long ribbon of dirt sort of heading down the other side. Again, it is technically gravel. You could ride it on a gravel bike, but you're going to be way more comfortable on a mountain bike. Kind of chunky gravel, I'd say, and that is kind of the theme of the Balkans and the ACCURSED race. So yeah, this was probably 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So I started the climb at dawn. Good hour, I'd say up here, and then you've got a nice descent down the other side, and you're kind of then basically heading out of Montenegro. So you can see on the map here, you're doing this big sort of U-turn. The summit is up here, and then basically you're running down on the road to the border with Montenegro again, and then you're on a large sort of it's a bigger road, but obviously it's a mountain road, so you have to bear in mind that it's not going to be massively busy. So this is the climb. I mean, if you've done the transcontinental race, you'll probably be very familiar with this. Heading towards the Dermata National Park. The ACCURSED race doesn't actually go into Dermata, but it sort of skirts the sort of the south of it. So this is the climb up onto the ridge. I got here at night. I don't have it goes off road after this. I didn't have much in the way of video footage after, because it turned into a bit of a wild night. Basically, really high winds picked up. and it got dark quite quickly. And yeah, it can just catch you out. So you can see it's where are we? This kind of high section up here, and then you've got a couple of quite big climbs. So this section leading into Barani. Barani is the checkpoint, and you can see there's quite a big peak here. Now there was a bit of snow. This is actually the highest point of the race. And yeah, like I said, I went up there in dawn, and it was pretty wild. I think the leaders got over it. I bivvied at the bottom just before, and you can probably see from the wind on the grass there, you know, you're getting blown away. If it's raining, you can see this could be potentially quite muddy. I was quite lucky. I didn't get any rain on any of the sections that could be muddy. But yeah, it was wild. There's a bit of a snowbank you need to climb over, and then basically you're dropping down towards Barani and to the checkpoint. And yeah, this is CP1 Hotel Barani. So yeah, your first sort of civilization for probably a good 12 hours or so. It's quite it's an alright hotel. You can get some coffee and things like that, and there's plenty of shops in the town. Resupply isn't really an issue on the Accursed race. There's plenty of resupply out there. You just have to sometimes buy, you know, quite a big amount of food, because you're basically going town to town, and there's normally a massive mountain pass in the middle. So yeah, that was CP1 in Barani. You just see here, I'll highlight it on the map. So yeah, this little town here, and then you're getting wild again. There's the next resupply is Rozaje, I think is how you pronounce it. But this little section here doesn't look much on the map. It says it's kind of tarmac on the map, but I can assure you it's not. It's more like dirt roads, and the climb up is pretty savage, if I'm honest. I was on and off pushing. There was kind of again, if it rains on this section, it could take a really long time. You can see by the speed. I mean, the cameras never really show the steepness, but it's kind of first gear, just plodding up there, really hot as well. And then you're in these woods, and it feels wild. If you want a real adventure, this felt like sections in Tour Divide when you're just up out in the mountains. Really amazing. And then you drop down. There's a resupply in Rozaje, and then you're climbing into Kosovo. So Kosovo is kind of on a little bit of a plateau. So you climb up and over, and then you drop down, and then you've got this kind of flat section here. The climb up itself, it's basically a main road up to the border. So it's pretty smooth, a few ups and downs, but you can see it's beautiful. Feels like alpine, an alpine pass. So yeah, the few little rollers up there, and then you're into Kosovo. It's quite warm, but Kosovo is the best place for resupply. There's bakeries everywhere, there's shops everywhere. So yeah, it's kind of a bit of a respite on this section before you head back into Albania. And this for me, this is the best bit of the route. So you're heading through Kosovo, dropping back down into Albania, and then you can see suddenly there's a hell of a lot of off-road, and this part is just is wild. I think that's the only way to kind of explain it. So you're dropping into Albania on the road, and then you're doing a few climbs, and then you drop into this beautiful valley. It's kind of like going back in time for a while. There's some steep climbs here. Basically, you're kind of climbing these big mountains ahead of you eventually. So yeah, real tough. If it rains, again, there's some sections that would be quite muddy and slow, but you're climbing steep climbs. It was quite hot when I was there, so that's always a factor you've got to look into. Water's never really an issue. There's always somewhere to drink it, but be it stream or taps in villages. So yeah, you don't have to carry too much in the way of water. But this is sort of the lead up into this section to the next checkpoint. So where are we? Peshkopi here. So you're kind of dropping down this valley, and then you're going through this wild section. I'm not going to dig into too much details here, but it's like going back in time. Kind of bit cut off. These villages, it's showing a road, but it's barely a road. It's a dirt road. You've got to really want to go there if you want to be there. I don't think it will last much longer. It did look like they were building a new road last year. So yeah, it could be one of the sort of last sort of lost pieces of Albania. It'll be a shame to see it kind of opened up, but I guess it's better for the local communities. And then you've still got a pretty wild section. Long climb. It's slow. This section is slow. You look at the map and you look at the the timings for the rest of the route, and you think you'll be over in a couple of hours, and then it just takes double the amount of time. Really slow going on the top, really, really rough. I mean, it's rough on a mountain bike with suspension. If you're on a rigid bike, then you're going to be suffering. So that is this section across the top before you start dropping down to Peshkopi, which is the checkpoint in a hotel. So I got smashed by the weather here. Big storm came in. The weather can change pretty quickly in the mountains. And I think on this long descent, you can see on the Viber GPS at the bottom here, I could see the storm coming in, started blowing up. I could see the rain front. I was going as hard as I could, and I got absolutely smashed, absolutely soaked by it. And my plan was initially to push through Peshkopi, but the checkpoint's in a hotel, so I ended up staying in the hotel just to dry everything off, get a pizza. There's some fairly good resupply there. But yeah, it kind of set me back a little bit. And then you've got a bit of road, bit of off-road, and then you've got this big section here. This is a brilliant climb. Really reminded me of Tour Divide. Although the elevation isn't massively high here, you feel like every time you drop down almost to sea level. So the climbs feel really quite long. There's a lot of hour-long climbs on this route, which is really good. I like it, getting in the rhythm. You can see on this section again, if you've done Tour Divide, you'll recognise the kind of tracks. So this is just on the descent. You're dropping all the way down this valley. There's a lot of kind of mining infrastructure. I'm not sure what they were mining up there, but down in the bottom, there's kind of all the industrial side of things. So it's a little bit wild. The other side, you don't see anyone, and then suddenly you're in this kind of industrial complex. But that's the kind of thing you kind of look for. And then just this beautiful Albanian red dirt. There's a long section. It's kind of I guess it's a bit of a balcony road, up and down, maybe a long lost road sort of through the mountains towards Tirana. As you can see, it's rough. You've got to concentrate the whole time, but it's beautiful. It really is. Albania is a fantastic country, and I definitely will be going back at some point. That is this section across the back here. So you can see by the map, it's kind of net downhill, but it's always sort of up and down. So it feels quite hard. There's some quite rough, lumpy tracks. And then finally you hit the road and you feel like you're on the final stretch. So you can see there's a lot of tarmac. There's a bit of off-road here. When I was here, it was really hot and quite, it's quite remote. There is water, but yeah, you're just tired by this point. This is on like the 6th day for me. So you're running along this valley. You run along next to the big lake up here. So if you look at the map, you can see you kind of do a bit of a dogleg. You're going basically all the way up this long valley here. You can see in the far distance where you're heading. So you feel like you're kind of going out the way just near the finish. Psychologically, it's quite tough. I had quite good weather here, but some people got absolutely smashed by storms in this valley. So generally speaking, I dodged the worst of it throughout the event. But you do have to just be prepared for storms and lightning and really heavy raining, in most parts of this course. And then just the final kind of, you can see this nice little lump right at the finish. So there's a bit of a climb and there's a bit of a hiker bike just to really kind of mess you up right by the line. It's the kind of thing where you see the tracker and see riders ahead of you and you think you're catching them, but then you realise they're just going really, really slowly. And the reason is this. So you can see this is, I rode this section. Most of this descent, it's fully rideable, but probably not 6 days into an ultra race on a loaded bike. You'd probably want to be on a trail bike for this. It's a cool little descent, but you can see you're going right down in the valley in the distance there and then hiking up the other side. So to be honest, it's a bit of a drag near the end, mainly because you know it's coming. You hear rumours about a hiker bike and your brain's quite tired by this point and you find it's quite difficult to process things. I was getting quite irate about the fact I had to do this hiker bike, but then actually I really enjoyed it. It was really good fun. And actually this is probably one of the best finishes to an ultra race I've ever done. So you finish the hiker bike, you get a really nice long descent, and then I just hit the final descent, kind of almost an hour downhill to the finish. Got the goal now, got the sunshine. I finished just as it got dark. So yeah, happy times. When you get to the top of the final climb, you could almost freewheel all the way down to the bottom. And this is your very, typical, dirt road in Albania. You can see it's not smooth, it's pretty chunky. But look at that for a finish. it's a good way to kind of just spend a bit of time to yourself, just process, what's happened, because it's a whole nother world when you're out, especially in the Balkans. But yeah, really beautiful, a really good race. And yeah, I'm sure all the riders will have a great time. So I'll be bringing daily coverage. So yeah, keep subscribed and tune in, and we'll catch you for the first update in a few days' time. Thanks for watching.